Yeah. Yeah, I'm burning. I'm burning. Yeah. ATN Talks Outside the Box. Here we go. I'm going to tell you this. Before I get started, like, subscribe, and share. Check us out on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube. You know what we do, and you know why we do it. And why? Because we have a world impact. Let's get to the business. All right? Let's get it. So, all this stuff that's going on around us is, as we always talk about, it's becoming common news, man. I mean, it's tough to watch because, as I said before, I watch sports to get away from nonsense and political and all the things that's going on, especially when the stuff holds no weight. Now, what holds no weight for me is the same thing I think I dig. I love when real NBA all-stars, NBA historians who know their stuff. I love when they get on and talk about what's real and they give a real, honest to goodness point statement. Charles Barkley, been around forever. He's always outspoken as he is. I love him. I love how he gets down. I hate him when he's a Laker hater, but, that's Charles Barkley. He's going to hate on the Lakers. That's what he's always done. I think he's just mad about the championships because the Lakers always seem to be around every decade. We're around trying to, compete for something. But interesting story, though. So all this stuff has been going on the past couple of days with the whole Bre Taylor verdict. And, I'm really disappointed by what I see because people are still not dealing with the actual incident for what it was, but rather really getting emotionally charged about everything. But, we have to be careful who we align ourselves with. And I'm gonna get to that in a second. But I just want to give you a little something on Charles Barkley. He really had a lot to say. And I thought he made a very powerful statement, powerful point, and went in and got to business, got to the business at hand. So let me play that for you real quick, and then we'll get into some other things because I want to come back and wrap this all up and lock it down. So here's Barkley. Here's Barkley on the whole law enforcement Bre Taylor incident.
To really be careful when we, I hear these fools on TV talking about defund the police and things like that. We need police reform and prison reform and things like that. Because you know who ain't going to defund the cops? White neighborhoods and rich neighborhoods. So that notion they keep saying that, I'm like, wait a minute, we just going to leave, who are black people supposed to call? Ghostbusters? When we have crime in our neighborhoods, we need police reform. But like I say, white people, especially rich white people, they're always going to have cops. So we need to stop that defund or abolish the cops crap. Just bad the young lady lost her life. But we do have to.
Now, this is now Bre Taylor. He's getting to the Bre Taylor point. He says, bad that the young lady lost her life.
Take into account that her boyfriend did shoot at the cops and shot a cop. So, like I say, even though I'm really sorry she lost her life, I don't think that we can just say we can put this in the same situation with George Floyd and Ahmaud Arbery. I just don't believe that.
Now, here's my deal. I disagree with him in reference to the whole, Arbery and all that. Arbery is a separate incident. You're absolutely right. And there's a couple of, white males who, went in on him and blah, blah, blah. That was that. I'm not going to get into that right now. I got another take on that. And then the whole George Floyd situation. What I like to usually deal with, people, and you'll hear this coming from any post that I put for ATN Outside the Box. Anytime I come on, I like to deal with the root problem of things, the core of things. I don't like to focus on the end result because the end result came as a result of something in action. And here's a reaction, but here's an action. So when you look at the action, my theory is always I like to go back to why the officer was present, why they were not present, or whatever took place at the location of the incidents is when these incidences take place around the country. And what we don't really take heed to is the real facts behind things. I can take you back to a post I did a couple of weeks ago where I talked about Bre Taylor and also Jacob Blake and some of the things, but I like to get to the point of why are they there? Why is law enforcement present? And Bre Taylor, honestly, in my humble opinion, she would still be alive today had she not been involved with these characters, period. And what we need to do is we need to go search out a rally and do a rally against these clowns that she was affiliated with. But here's the interesting thing. I think that we have to start looking at this, and this is my little jokey joke I always put out there. Let's take it down to Veggie Tales. Let's deal with the tomatoes and the cucumbers and the celery and celery sticks, and because we have to kind of take this very elementary for some. And I don't know why we have to do this, but this is just what it comes down to sometimes, because people want to be mad at something. People want to have something to say. People want to be angry. People want to feel invalidated in their own way. So when you're invalidated, you have a tendency to read things the wrong way. How you frame things in your life really has a lot to do with how you see the world and how you respond. So what I'm looking at is that people are responding a certain way based on your emotions, and you're not looking at the facts. The fact is, here's the VeggieTale version of it, as I said, is that when you were a kid and you were in school, I think your parents really, and I did it with my kids. Okay, I got sons. And my thing is this: when my son says, "Hey, Pop, can I go to a party? Can I go to a function?" I'm like, let me find out who the people are that you going to see. Who are these people? Who are the parents of these people? I want to know where he's going. So if my son, of course, they might think, oh, Dad, he's being so. No. But me and my wife had the same take on this. When I drive them to that house or wherever I'm going, I go to the door. I meet the adults at that door. I meet the people involved. I want to know who's going to be around, because if something jumps off, I want to know where my son is. I want to know why he was here, and I want to know who he was connected with. So that's just a parental thing that I think we have to take hold of. And I think all parents should look at it that way. My thing is this: if my sons are going to be around people, I'm going to want to know who they're going to be around. I want to know who they're affiliated with. And most importantly, I want to know who my sons are aligning themselves with. And that's one thing I don't think we really want to take into consideration when we're dealing with a lot of these things that are taking place around us. We're not looking at what's happening, who they're aligned with, what company do they keep. And sadly enough, it is a tragedy, absolute tragedy, that Bre Taylor is not here anymore. But I hate that she aligned herself with the people she aligned herself with. Because the same thing you tell your kids back then, when your children were small, is the same thing somebody should have been telling her in her adult life. Because 2016, when they found that murdered body in her trunk of a rental car that she had, at that point, somebody should have stepped into her life and said, you know what? These brothers that you're connected with or that you're aligning yourselves with, you probably need to get away from around them. That was in 2016. The law enforcement officers have been following her since 2016, watching this whole thing play out. They got video footage. They got cameras on the street. They had the camera views of each trap house that she was going and making trips to throughout her life over the last 4 years. And it sucks and it hurts my heart to know that this young black woman has lost her life as a result of her activities with the people that she aligned herself with. It's not good. It's a bad look. But LeBron will get on TV, and because he's a world-known star, they'll let him talk for as long as he wants to talk, and he's standing there trying to work up a cry to try to get it off his chest, to try to say how sad he is. But nobody's talking about, let's deal with the drugs or the drug pushers on these situations. Nobody's talking about, forget about Bre Taylor and being mad at the cops. Let's be mad at the dude who used her as part of his scam and what he was doing out there. And I think people need to take into account themselves. Take into account what you stand for. I mean, biblically speaking, I'm always throw some scripture in there with it, because I got to tell you, when you look at 1 Timothy chapter 4, verse 16, it says, keep watch of how you live and your teachings. Okay? How you live and your teaching. Stay true to what is right for the sake of your own salvation and the salvation of those who hear you. Now, the thing is, I'm seeing right now, man, is I'm just watching as people seem to funnel in all of these comments. And, Jalen Rose is on mainstream TV the other day during the basketball game at halftime. And this dude pops off and says at the end, after they asked him about the shooting of Harold, the kid Harold from Miami, he comes out with, yeah, Harold's doing good, but we need to get them cops who murdered Bre Taylor. Okay, so why don't you look up murder and get back to me, okay? I want you to look up, Jalen Rose too, look up murder. Any of you guys, look up murder. Murder is unlawful. Murder is, when you're in the lawful activity of your duties, how can you murder somebody? And you can murder somebody if that's the decision he made. Nobody made a decision here to murder anyone. I'm not saying that every shoot is perfect, every shoot is good. But what I am saying that if you're in the performance of your duties and you show up to a house and somebody shoots at you and you with me and I'm a cop there and you don't shoot back, I got no words for you. I have no words for you. A cop better shoot back when somebody's shooting at him. And unfortunately, when a cop gets hit, which this guy got hit, a guy got hit, which caused everybody else to shoot back into the house, you better do something about that. There's no way that you're going to be working law enforcement and somebody shoots out of a door at you and you're not going to shoot back. You better shoot back. If you ain't shooting back and you with me, we're going to have some problems when you get back to the station. I'm going to tell you that right now. We're going to have some issues. We're going to have a talk. We're going to be in a parking lot hollering at each other or something. But my life is at stake, your life is at stake, and my family's life is at stake as a result of something I'm doing. I'm not murdering anybody when I'm doing the performance of my duties on my job. That'd be different if I was out in the streets. But here's what's funny. We're talking a lot about this stuff, but nobody's talking about the murders that are taking place around us every day. It's happening a lot. A lot. I'm going to get the number for you because there is a number. You have a better chance, and I'm not joking about this. They did an actual study on this. You have a better chance to get struck by lightning than you do to get killed by a law enforcement officer as a black man. Now, why are you scared again? Why are you worried? Why is LeBron worried when he walked out of his house? I don't know why he's worried where he lives anyway. He lives up in the hills somewhere. Ain't nobody worried about him. He's an NBA ball player, so I don't know what he's talking about. But what's funny is everybody's talking about I'm worried about this and I'm worried about that. I ain't never been worried about my life because I knew how to act. And I know tons of people, men, women, and children who don't think about law enforcement when they're driving down the street or leaving their house and they black. I know tons of people ain't thinking about the cops. But what they are thinking about is that they just so happen to live within the boundary lines of some hood or some urban community. What they're really worried about is them goons out there. That's a fact. They're not thinking about the cops. So what I think is funny, as I played this Charles Barkley clip for you guys at the beginning, you know, Charles Barkley made a very great point. And that's that, you know, we have to realize that the rich people in the white neighborhoods, they're not saying defund the police. They want cops. And funny thing, their crime is down. But in our inner cities, we saying we want to get rid of them and we need them the most. You know, grandma's at the gas station getting robbed, or some women walking down the street. I seen a woman a couple of weeks ago got socked in the face by a dude walking down the street in the black neighborhood. Ain't nobody talking about that. Her black life, we could care less about that. Woman was in a walker. She was in a walker and the dude just hauled off and knocked the piss out of her. Excuse my expression. Just knocked the mess out of her. Knocked her down on the street and kept walking, you know. And so I feel like that what we're doing is we're not saying enough of what, you know, like I said, the old VeggieTales version of this is when your kids get aligned with people, when your kids hang out with people, you tell your kids, be careful who you hang out with. I don't want you hanging out with this one and that one because they blah, 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 blah. We're not telling them to do that because of law enforcement or white people in this country. We don't tell our kids that because of white people, and we tell them that because we know that there is a stigma attached to how you dress, how you present, how you look when you step out. All of that stuff matters. For people to say that shouldn't matter, no, it should matter. It should matter. When you see, I know on the first day my son went to a new school, a new high school, the security officer who was standing at the gate was a black man. You know what the black man said to my son when we walked in the gate? He said, "Hey, young man, you coming to school, start school here?" My son said, "Yes, sir." Notice my son's answer. "Yes, sir." Okay. He said, "Hey, man, I'm going to love to see you coming to school every day." And he said, "I like to see young men dressed and present themselves the way you present yourself." My son was clean from head to toe. I ain't ain't bragging. I'm just saying the boy was clean. You know, he was dipping. You know what I'm talking about. Come on, Dwayne. You know what I'm talking about. He was dipping. You know, and he had his shirt on. He was buttoned down. You know, he was clean with it. He had his jeans on, pants at his waist with a belt on, looking clean, and know how to present himself. Yes, sir. No, sir. Speaking very eloquently, as I might say. Okay. And so I think it's important that when people see you, they see something. You can't tell me you don't see something. I don't care if he's white or black. If I see a white dude on the corner and I'm working law enforcement, or I was on patrol when I was out there on the streets, and if I'm out there and I see a dude and he got tattoos all over his head and his arms and all that, and he's wearing a wife beater walking down that spells something for me. I mean, maybe you so perfect and honorable to that doesn't say nothing to you. You don't gauge people. You don't have any prejudices, right? And what most people don't understand is that this whole life that we're living right now, all this stuff we see going on, that started back in Egypt when real slavery started. You know what slavery was? Like, slavery was in Egypt, right? Where it was black people enslaving other black people because there wasn't no white folks around. Okay, it was just Egyptians and other black folks. Okay, so here's what we need to understand: the prejudices. I'm gonna use that word very strongly because I think what we're looking at a lot that we don't seem to understand is that many black people are thriving in this country because they're doing it the right way. Many people who are not thriving in this country either have some more work to do, or they just don't choose to play the game the way the game needs to be played. And in every entity or in every organization, in every walk of life you walk into, even if I was to move to Africa, which I've been to a couple times already, or if I was to move to Brazil, or if I was to move to Thailand, or I have to kind of mesh with the culture that's there. And what I mean by that is when you get there, you're going to have to play the game. Play the game the way it's supposed to be played in order to get yourself to a successful place. And then once you get to a successful place, you may be able to make some decisions for yourself that maybe you would not have been able to make when you were a lower class individual. Okay, now here's the deal. I don't like to even use the term lower class because I believe that everybody has something to bring to the table. But what people have to understand is this. This life we live is about prejudices that have been going on since the days of Exodus. That's just the way it is. Prejudices will always be here. Racism will always be here in a sense, but race didn't come around to the 17th century. So don't talk to me about that to a degree, like making it sound like it ain't been here since the beginning of time. God didn't put it in the Bible, and it's not something it's something that we decided to come up with as citizens, okay? Racism. Prejudices is what we deal with. Prejudices of class. So what we see, and as I go back to what I said before about when you're talking about, what Charles Barkley stated that I played at the beginning here, about the white people don't want the police to be gone from their inner cities, or from their cities. They don't. And they're smart for that because that's how you keep the crime down. If you know somebody's coming or the cavalry's coming, you're not due to really commit crimes in places where they put the smack down on you behind. Like you go to Irvine right now, Irvine's got a lower crime rate. Why? Because people do what they're supposed to do when they're there. And so when you see crime down, you don't have officers who are on high alert all the time or showing up to a scene thinking it's hot, I got to do something, What you have in those places is more, past crimes, things that may have happened and now the officer's showing up later. The ones that are in progress, officers are still going to come in guns ablazing. They don't care what race you are in Irvine. Seen it happen. And I done lived in quite a few places, white neighborhoods, black neighborhoods, Mexican neighborhoods, all over. Okay. So being around a little bit, I seen some things. And then I'm being on patrol for a while. I seen some things. And so what I think is a crack up to me is most folks who always been on one side of this thing have an opinion about it and always got something to say and want to go to Facebook and answer up on somebody else's Facebook page, or they want to pipe up and say something about the way the country is and all that kind of stuff. And you ain't lived nowhere but your neighborhood, or when you traveled a little bit, you still had a closed mind, or you never went to experience the life the way you should have experienced it. And not to mention, you ain't never stood behind the barrel of a gun with a uniform on, having the ability to take somebody's life or not, and have them, you're giving them instructions and them not following what you're telling them to do. You ain't never experienced that. So you selling wolf tickets as far as I'm concerned. You just talking and you don't know what you're talking about. But what happens is when you deal back, I digress. I'm sorry. When you get back to the prejudice thing, that's always going to be here. And what prejudices do is that what we're talking about that happens in this country, and it happens everywhere. Okay. Travel a little bit everywhere. There's class. Okay. Class up here, class down here. Usually the upper class always has the upper hand. It sucks. Okay. But what I've seen is that when you get to a certain stage of life, you got people waiting on you hand and foot. Ask Magic Johnson. Ask LeBron James. Ask Michael Jordan. Ask people who are well-to-do black folks. Even for me and my wife, I mean, we make a pretty good living. I think, you have people that want to do things for you when you get to a certain status in life. And that's what I think this is all about. People are mistaking racist comments and things like that for status. It's a status. Even in Egypt, when it was all black, When the Egyptians enslaved the other black folks there, or the other Hebrews, or whatever you want to state them or as, at the end of the day, it was class, because the Egyptians had more, because they were well off. They had all the strings that they could pull, no matter where you go. Even in, which I will get into on another day, the transatlantic slave trade that nobody wants to talk about, that went on far longer than American slavery, where Arab African people was enslaving other folks, castrating, hanging, killing, and murdering millions, with a Z, millions of blacks, millions of Africans murdered by their own. Transatlantic slave trade. You think I'm lying? Go look it up for yourself. Went on way far longer than American slavery, and did far more damage to the black man than any American has ever done. Nobody talks about that. But we can't hate on them because they got the same skin color. We need somebody to dislike. We need somebody to complain against. We need somebody to point the finger at. But what I would encourage you to do right now, i.e. what Charles Barkley was talking about and this whole Bre Taylor nonsense, is folks need to stop getting caught up in your emotions and you'll get out of your feelings and really focus on the facts of cases, the facts of things. When people don't do what they're asked to do, when decisions are made outside of the realm of when you're being told to do something and you can't follow simple instructions, punishment ensues. Go back and look at Romans chapter 13, verse 1 through 3, or 1 through 4. Romans 13, chapter 13, verse 1 through 4. And you get a nice, clear understanding of what we're supposed to be doing and how we're supposed to be doing it, or else this is what happens. And that's God all the way through the Bible. If you do this, then he'll do that. If you do this, then he'll do this. This is just biblical. So everything you see going on around you, they're all predicated. When we stop looking at the fleshly side of it, and we look at the spiritual side of this, this is spiritual demonic forces happening before our eyes. And what you see and what you will notice is that when a person has interaction with a law enforcement officer, or a person has an issue with an authority figure, it's always going to be a problem when people are not operating and doing what they're called to do. That's what this all comes down to. It's a decision. God gives everybody decisions. God gives people choices. You can make a choice to respond correctly or respond negatively. And your decision is what constitutes the result. That's life in everything. If I make a decision to carry a gun or make a decision to rob people, I might end up being robbed one day. If I make a decision to hurt, kill people, or stab, or if I make a decision to sell drugs, it's going to eventually catch up with me. So all these incidences we keep talking about, we're not dealing with the person, we're dealing with the end result. The end result, sadly enough, is sometimes tragic, i.e. Bre Taylor. I feel bad for her family. I feel bad that she's gone. But be careful who you align yourselves with so that you don't end up on the wrong side of this. So when everybody's tired of their emotional roller coasters because you black and you think you don't have a fair shot in America, but yet we got 37,000 millionaires in this country, 38,000. We got like over 1 million some people making $100,000 a year. That's black. I guarantee you this, your ancestors never thought you would make it like that. They never thought they'd see this day in this country where black folks, I mean, like I said a couple of weeks ago, me and my son sat up and watched Glory Road, a movie that came out where the first 5 black starters in college NCAA basketball won the tournament over a mainstream program like Kentucky. They believe it was Kentucky. Whooped up on them. First starting 5. He started 5 black ball players for the first time in history of college basketball. We watched that movie. But what we did not know in some of that movie, and what you got to realize is happened way back, you know. But you don't see black players showing up to hotels now with blood smeared all over their hotel rooms talking about black niggers, pigs, blah, blah, blah. You don't see that. You don't see them showing up to restaurants all around the country when they're going to travel to play ball, where they go in the bathroom and one is getting jumped by 3 white men who are throwing their head in the toilet and beating the mess out of them. And he's going there to play basketball. You don't see that no more. So for y'all to hear people talking about that, we're not fair anymore. It's just not fair. Things are not going, dude. Black folks got some of the most amazing opportunities that you could ever wish for. Not only are we getting great opportunities to do successful things in this country, but we also have a large majority of the government that is helping us achieve those goals. You got people getting, when they're not well-to-do, getting bus passes, money for, apartments, getting cars bought by them by county institutions all across this country. And when you're being given things, you better cash in on the opportunity. Am I saying that social governmental aid is always good? No, it's not. Because sometimes people stay on it far too long. You're not supposed to. But the goal is to get ahead. And if you want success and you want to prosper in this country, I suggest you use those programs for what they're supposed to be for and get off of them as soon as you get to your destination. But that's what God allows. God has allowed us to experience those things. God has allowed people to enjoy certain aspects of life by way of governmental assistance. And those things are to help people like us. Okay? So what I would say, as I've said before, and I'll continue to say going forward, is we need to stop complaining, moaning, and whining, and focus on looking at the man in the mirror, take self-responsibility, and understand that these people who have also died at the hands of some agent of law enforcement have to take responsibility for their actions. I mean, I'm sure, it's a sad story that George Floyd died the way he died because he didn't deserve to go that way. But I'm going to tell you, his life was going to eventually catch up with him. I believe, my humble opinion, that his life, when you're pulling guns on pregnant women, putting it to their stomach while they're pregnant, I think that at some point it's going to catch up with you. When you're an addict and you're kind of out there, doing strong arm robberies and you like 6'7", 300 pounds, it's a little difficult to wish for some good on somebody when they're going through stuff like that, or to say to somebody like, oh, he's going to be all right, everything's going to go well. No, we all do get a chance to turn our lives around. But at the time he was even being dealt with that day, he was actually breaking the law. I mean, that's just what it is. And that really, really sucks. And I don't really care whether anybody agrees with me or not. The facts are there. It doesn't, it's not to us to agree or disagree. We can have an opinion about it, and that's great, but the facts don't lie. It is what it is. So I feel bad for the man. I feel bad for all these people who end up in these situations. But many times what led up to that person and their demise was their lifestyle. Facts. You want to argue the facts? Feel free, go right ahead. But at the end of the day, that's where the problem lies. And folks need to take heed to themselves, as the Bible tells us. Take heed to yourself and what you stand for and what you believe in and what you do and how you operate. If you don't do that, you will not receive salvation. You will not have a successful life. So these people are experiencing unsuccessful attempts in their lives by way of their disobedience. Can you imagine what this world would look like if we all just looked at it? Because everybody wants to talk Bible until we get to situations like this. Everybody wants to talk about the faith. But if we look at the big picture, no matter what anybody else does, when you look in the mirror a day, can you say that you live the life that God told you to live? Because if folks start doing that, we won't have these issues. I can only imagine. We won't have black babies being aborted in the inner city if folks did what they were supposed to do. We won't. And we're talking about, we only 13% of the population. You're right. So don't say nothing else to me about white on white crime. Don't say nothing else to me about it. Or black. When you say something about black on black, folks get mad and say, well, what about white on white? Don't talk to me about white on white. They don't represent 13% of the population, nor do they have a bunch of run-ins with cops like that. And nor are they out there running amok. I mean, we're the ones that you show me a White Lives Matter organization. Show me that. Then we'll talk. Yeah, okay. Well, I got a message here. What? He was not breaking the law. Are you allowed to be under the influence of a controlled substance? If I'm a cop and I see you under the influence of a controlled substance, you're breaking the law. People go to jail for that. Why? Why do they go to jail for it? Because I've seen with my own two eyes people commit crimes under the influence of a controlled substance, which he was under the influence of. So you want to argue the facts? You can argue the facts, but that's a fact. He was under the influence of a drug, and he should not have been. And that's unfortunate. Like I said, I hate that he's dead. I hate it. There's another story of a black man losing his life at the hands of somebody else. And what's sad, though, is that I think it sucks because there's a lot of our brothers out here losing their lives every day. And nobody's talking about it. But we take something that doesn't even happen 1% of the time a year, and we're choosing to focus on it. Can you tell me why that is, Miss Harper? Tell me that. Tell me that. What about the KKK? They killed less people. They killed in their existence, the KKK's existence. They've killed less people than the black streets in the last 70 years. Explain that. They supposed to be so powerful. Funny thing, they're not affecting our neighborhoods. They ain't putting guns in our hands. So I want to know how we can beat that. Yeah, that's what my question was. What have you seen a White Lives Matter organization? If you do, please send me to the website. I'd love to see it. Police? What? I'm not white. I'm not white. I know quite a few black cops in this country. Matter of fact, if you look on TV, probably every other day you're going to see a black chief of police. That means he was a cop, he was a corporal, sergeant, lieutenant, moved up the ladder, and became the head of police. And also keep in mind too, Ms. Harper, keep in mind that we run the large majority of these cities. Black folks, black mayors, black governors, black chief of police, black officers, black command staff, black attorney generals in some of these states. So who do you blame for that? You blame the KKK still? So hey Jeremy, how you doing, man? So let's hear Jeremy is as a law enforcement officer, knowing that George Floyd was three times the amount of fentanyl. 3 times the amount of fentanyl that it would take to kill someone. Did you think the officers should have charged with anything, should be charged with anything? And if so, what charge? I think that the officer who put the knee in his neck, yeah, he probably needs to go to the graveyard. I hate to say that, but I think that, he should have never been in that position to do such a thing as a law enforcement officer. I'm just speaking from experience as a law enforcement officer. I never would put my knee in the guy's back like that or put all my weight on his back like that. We don't even learn that in the academy. So whatever he did was his own action. It's just funny to me that people you get teachers that put hands on a kid or teachers that do something in school, or you see organizations where this happens all the time. But because he's a white man and he was a cop, we want to form an alliance and allegiance against law enforcement all across the country for the stupidity of a few people who don't even do these things, not even 10% of a year. The other officers, in terms of charging them with something, that's a tough one. I struggle with that one a lot since March, because I feel like that. I know for me personally, there's no way I would have allowed my partner to do what he did. I would have jumped on him and did something that got him off of him. However, yeah, they should be charged with something, because in your bylaws or in your general orders book, when you become a law enforcement officer, there's certain things you're supposed to stand by, certain things you're supposed to stand for, certain things that you abide by in the laws. So you're not supposed to allow your partner to do anything unrighteous, allow him to do anything that's outside the realm of the law enforcement sect. So yeah, they should have been charged with something. I think if I want to look at it in all right standing. He was way out of bounds. Yeah, he definitely, he's probably going to fry for it, unfortunately. So I'm praying not only for George Floyd's family, but I pray for his family too, because he's got a wife and I think he's got a kid or some kids. But I think it's unfortunate, man, But again, I always harken back to this. Ms. Harper says, funny, if you knew he was breaking the law, he didn't rush away from where he was told he was breaking the law. He stayed there trying to figure out how was the money bogus. Well, Ms. Harper, again, I'm not really focusing on the counterfeit money because I wasn't there. I'm going to tell you, as an experienced law enforcement officer myself, who's done this longer than 10 years already, that I don't know what happened because I wasn't there in reference to that, but I do know that he was under the influence of drugs. 300-pound man, 6'7", under the influence of a drug. And so law enforcement, when they get there, I thought when I watched the entire video, if you watch all the video, the body-worn cameras, they actually handled him pretty cool up until he started resisting and moving around and trying to, him being that big, you get a little nervous as a law enforcement officer dealing with a guy that big, that size, but, they are human. They're not robots. But at the end of the day, he was under the influence. That's where the law breaking comes in for me personally, right at the very beginning of that. Because then you start operating. You have to remember, once you're under the influence of something, you begin to operate unlike your normal self. That's why, even biblically speaking, again, I always go back to the Bible. The Bible says, come let us reason together. But how can you reason when you're not sober? You need sobriety in order to reason carefully. And I don't know if George Floyd would have been even acting like that. Judging from the funeral and the people that said things about him, didn't seem like he would act like that in his normal state of mind. Now, I do know that he pulled a gun on a pregnant woman. He had been arrested about 9 times. He had a nice little, and I'm not saying, because I know everybody's saying, well, his record doesn't matter. I'm going to tell you from my experience, again, coming to my side. Now, you want me to come to your side and look at your perspective. And I've been black 40-some years of my life. And I was from the inner city for many years before I moved out. And I went to inner city schools, in Compton. But now look at my perspective. Come over to this side, put your uniform on, and you be a cop for a minute. And you tell me. Now, when you show up to a scene of a house where a husband and wife are fighting, don't you want to know who you're going to deal with when you get there? Of course you do. Because you want to know if that person, or you pull a car over and you're a cop. You're going to want to know who's driving that car, what he stands for, if he's had law enforcement contacts, if he went at it with somebody and he dealt with something, if he's a drug addict or if he's been arrested for being under the influence of something. So when you get the license plate on a car or you go into a house with an address and you get all the information from dispatch about this guy, you're going to want to know what you're dealing with, what you're up against. And so I want to know the record of the person. If you don't want to know, that's cool, but you're not there. My family's life is at stake and my life is at stake when I show up somewhere to people that I don't know. So I want to know what the record of the person is. I know people say, well, his record doesn't matter. That's why, why does that matter if a person died? Because you want to know who you're dealing with. Got to know that. So how can you reason if you are scared? You said the officers may be there, you said officers may be in these situations. Not quite sure what you mean by that, but if you're trying to get at how can he be reasoned if he's scared? Being scared, I think you probably would have laid on if it's me, if I'm scared in my normal state of mind without these drugs, I'm gonna lay on the ground and put my hands behind my back and let them take me into custody. Period. I'm not gonna cry. I'm not screaming and hollering. I'm not going back and forth with the cops. I'm scared right now. So I'm saying, sir, what did I do? Blah, blah, blah. I'm put my hands behind my back. Go ahead and take me. I'm gonna find out what's going on. Okay, but to say that he was so scared that he had to do what he did, no, don't buy it. And I've dealt with numerous guys on the street that I was put in handcuffs when I was working patrol. And there's a difference between being scared and being under the influence. Believe me, if you've never dealt with somebody under the influence versus them being scared and try to put handcuffs on them, you don't know what I'm talking about. But I'm trying to tell you, there is a difference. So Harper comes back with KKK is a White Lives Matter movement. So it's a system that has been set up in this country and just about every other. The only people that had a effing clue, I ain't gonna repeat what you said, was Haiti. Well, don't start cussing on my page. Don't get mad. We having a conversation. It's all right. I get where you're coming from and what you're saying. At the end of the day, what are you gonna do? Are you succeeding in your life with all that's going on around the country right now? Are you? Bust them upside their head and tell them, oh, okay. Only thing is they're still poor because the global system. Now I know quite a few people that I mean, actually, there's millions of people across this country that are black that came from poverty and are doing very well right now in America because America has opportunities. If you look at Martin Luther King, if you followed him any length of time, Martin Luther King did not fight for equal success as the man living next door to you. It just doesn't happen. The man next door to you may not even be white. He may be black. He may have 5 bedrooms and a boat. You may have 2 bedrooms and a car. But it doesn't matter what you have compared to somebody else. What you want is success. Martin Luther King fought for equal success, not equal opportunity to achieve success, not equal status. So if you're looking for status, you're not going to get that. If you want to be, if you were LeBron James or Magic Johnson or somebody like that, yeah, maybe. Yeah. But, and believe me, they got people waiting on them hand and foot, and they're not white. So go figure. It is a status thing. If that's what you're asking, yes, it is a status thing, for sure. But the system ain't set up to make you black people fail, because if the system was set up just for white people to do good, then Asians wouldn't be the richest people in the United States of America right now. Go check your stats. Asians are the most successful men in this country right now, not white men. Go look it up for yourself if you don't believe me. But at the end of the day, the system may be ran by certain people, but interestingly enough, if you play your cards the right way, you're going to succeed. And again, millions of black people all across this country are doing very well for themselves. We got over a million people making over $100,000 a year in this country that are black. We got 38,000 millionaires. If the system's trying to hold us back, they're not doing a very good job. If Trump is trying to hold us back, he's not doing a very good job inviting a bunch of black pastors to the White House. And I know you probably going to say, he invited to the White House because he's trying to do a stunt or a scam. Well, I wish Obama would have did that for a stunt or a scam. I wish some other president would have did it. I mean, whether he did it, the reasons he did it behind it, the reason he decided on prison reform and letting 97% of black men out of the prisons when they start releasing people, the reason why he got HBCUs, paying for HBCUs to be able to practice their Christian faith in their colleges, allowing that. If he's trying to stop black folks, he ain't doing a good job. He's screwing it up because he's doing a bunch of stuff for us. His administration is doing a bunch of stuff for black folks. I think it's interesting. But yet he's a racist. Well, he ain't being a good racist because he made all these calls for black folks over the past 4 years. He started in 2016. Okay? I'll tell you like Steve Harvey said. When Steve Harvey got invited to the White House, he said, but just like black folks do this all the time. We do this to each other. We think every black person is legit until he disagrees with you. The minute your black brother or sister disagrees with what you like or what you think about the inner city, then that's when you outcast them and call them all kind of names. And Steve Harvey said he was called every name in the book after he went to the White House to meet, but yet he got what he needed to get done. He met with Ben Carson. He connected with Ben Carson, and he began working on a program for urban housing. So just because black people don't agree with everything you say and don't do everything you do doesn't mean they don't have the best interests of black people at heart. I got the best interests of black people. I've been picking up kids from the inner city, taking them to church. I started doing that back in 1998. So just because I don't say the same thing every black man says or do everything every black man from the inner city does that came from the same neck of the woods I came from don't mean I'm any different than you. I just see it differently. So I say much respect to you. If you want to see it a certain way and you don't agree that your mind should be changed, then you go ahead and go with it. But I'm going to tell you what I'm going to do. At the end of the day, I'm going to wrap this up in a little bow and clean it up for you at the end before I get off here. I'm going to roll with God. And whatever God tells me to do as a man, not a black man, but as a man, because I was a man of God before I was a black man. Because God created me. So I was God creation as a man before I was a color. Race didn't come into existence till the 17th century. So that was way after God started. Okay. So let me make sure I make this clear that I was a man of God before I was a black man. And always remember, you have more in common with a man that shares your faith than the man that shares your skin color. Remember that for as long as you live. You have more in common with the man that shares your faith than the man that shares your skin color. Because the dude I grew up next door to, me and his household may not even operate the same. But if we're both living for God and we're both living the Christ-like life, then that's where it all hits the fan. That's where everything aligns itself the proper way. And as I said at the beginning of this, with Bre Taylor and all these other activities that's going on across the country, be careful who you align yourself with. Unfortunately, she aligned herself with the wrong people, and I feel bad. It's a tragedy that she's not here. But I wish somebody would have whispered in her ear and told her to get away from these people. And I think she would still be alive today. I even think she'd still be alive had her boyfriend or the dude who was sitting in her house hadn't shot out the door and shot one of the cops. I think she'd still be alive today. So rest in peace, Breonna. I feel for your family, and I'm praying for you and your family. But I think, as I said before, read Romans chapter 13, verse 1 through 4, and you will see that decisions that you make result in a punishment or glory, one of the two. You get to pick because God gave you a choice. We all can make choices. Make the right choice, do what you're called to do, and walk in purpose, and I believe your life will take a dramatic turn for the better. That's God's words. That's not mine. I'm paraphrasing, but that's facts. Read your Bible. You'll know this. So, as always, your man outside the box, Ation Talks. Love to have you guys with me. Thank you for all the views, all the likes, subscribes, and shares. Go to YouTube. Check us out on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook. Tap in Outside the Box, Ation Talks, and look us up. Like and subscribe and share to the channel. And please share with your people, man. Let them know what's happening. We're going to speak righteousness. You already know how we roll. We got a world to impact. That's what we're about. We're not about all this nonsense going on around us. We're going to let you see a silver lining. We don't talk the same way. We don't come at you the same way. We come a little different. For a black family from the inner city, yeah, we come a little different, okay? But this is what we rolling with. We about that God life. So do what you're called to do, and God will take care of the rest. Outside the box, your man Ation. Sign it off.